Just the settings of any non-adaptive assignments in ALEKS, you're first going to want to head to your assignments page. Once you're on your assignments page, you'll see your full list of existing assignments that you can edit, or you can go into this plus new button up here at the top and you'll see homework, test, or quiz from this drop-down menu. Those will also have these same settings. If you're going to edit something that's already existing, to know that it's non-adaptive, you'll see these little green symbols over here to the left of the assignment, or in the type category, you'll see homework, test, or quiz. All of these are going to be very similar settings that they have. They do have some different defaults, and it's a little bit different depending on if you're in a math course or a chemistry course, but overall this will be the same for everybody using ALEKS. You can either click on the name of the assignment or you can check it off and use this edit tool at the top. It will take you into the assignment where you can adjust either the content or the settings side. In this video, we're just going to focus on the settings. So like I said, these might look a little bit different depending on what kind of course you're running and what your institution settings are, but for the most part, these will be pretty similar. At the top is where you can adjust the name and the dates that this particular assignment is open and closing on, as well as the times that it opens and closes. You can also decide on here if you want to give a late submission time period for the students, where if they don't complete it during the first window, they have until a final submission date, and you can even apply an automated penalty. Down here, there's some particular settings for that automated penalty that you can kind of take a look into if you want to add a penalty to that late submission window. You can also decide if this particular assignment is enabled or disabled. The reason you might want to disable something is if you're not ready for students to do it just yet, or if you're going to create like a worksheet or something printed, pencil and paper, and you just want to create it inside of ALEKS but disable it so it's not being pushed to students virtually. You can also decide if you want to hide it from students until the start date and what students you want to assign this assignment to. Especially for quizzes and tests, we a lot of times see time limits enabled. So if you are going to enable a time limit, just note a few things here is that if you enable a time limit, you'll just want to make sure you have enough time that it's open for them to get their full time limit that you set here. So if you're giving them an hour and a half, make sure it's at least open for an hour and a half, if not longer, up here for the start date and time and the due date and time. Down here, you will also notice there's a whole section on assignment access settings. So these would be where you can decide kind of how the students are going to access this particular assignment. The first one being the priority setting. So if you want students to take something as soon as it's available, especially for like maybe a quiz or a test, you kind of want to force students into it as soon as it is available to them, you can use that top setting. If you don't want to force them into it and they can decide kind of when they start something, or if they want to finish something first before they start it, you'll want to choose the second option here. As long as you don't have the time limit enabled, you'll also see this secondary option underneath the second one, where after starting the assignment, you can allow students to save it for later and work on something else and then come back to it. So if you want them to be able to kind of go in and out of this assignment, you'll want to make sure that's checked off. Underneath that is where you can decide if you want to add any prerequisites to this particular assignment. So a lot of times we see this where we'll add prerequisites of homework assignments before a quiz opens and prerequisites of quizzes before tests opens. It's just up to you and how you want your course to be built, but you can add up to 5 prerequisite assignments for this one particular assignment. So you can say that you want them to do the chapter 1 module with at least an 80% before this particular homework assignment even opens to those particular students. You can also password protect this, so if you want to set a password, you can do so. You can also do some other settings. This depends on your institution and what they have turned on. Some of you might see this location setting to lock down the IP address. Some of you might see respond as monitor or lockdown browser pop up underneath a quiz or a test. That would be in this section as well. Just depends on what your institution has set. For this knowledge check setting, if you have automated knowledge checks in your course, you might want to check this off before an upcoming quiz or a test, just so they're not getting overly assessed. If you don't have the automatic knowledge checks turned on, this one won't be as pertinent to you or your course needs. This review mode down here is after one submitted attempt, the assignment opens up to the students to practice without impacting their score. So especially for homework assignments, you may want this turned on, maybe not for a quiz or a test. It's just up to you how much you want them to be able to get in there and review that assignment afterwards without impacting their score. Down here, we also have some content settings. So depending again on your course, on your institution, what you have in there, these might look a tiny bit different. You might see the ebook, you might not. You might see these answer tolerance policies, you might not. It just depends on what kind of course you're in, what book you're using, and so on. So just know that these might vary a little bit from this video, but you can decide here what kind of resources your students are given. So they'll see these resources pop up over to the right side of their page anytime they're working on on modules or homework assignments. A lot of times they'll see these resources. So you can decide for these particular homework assignments or tests or quizzes what you want turned on or off for the students. So just kind of take a look at those. You can always view the student view to see what those look like before making that decision on what you want turned on or off. Like I said, sometimes these answer tolerance policies will turn on or off, just depending on what kind of course you're in. So just know that these may be different, varying between this video and what you have and what you see in your course. For homework assignments, you'll also see where you can adjust the question attempts as well as the assignment attempts, whereas in quizzes or tests, you'll just see the assignment attempts setting here. You can either decide between 1 and 10, or if you scroll up, you'll see the unlimited here as well. So you can decide if you want them to have a particular number of question attempts or assignment attempts. For homework assignments, those do work together. So if you give them 1 question attempt, but you give them 3 assignment attempts, they'll basically have 3 overall, whereas if you give them 2 question attempts with 3 assignment attempts, they'll basically have 6 overall times that they can go in and do that particular question. So just keep that in mind as you're setting those. If you do multiple assignment attempts, you'll also get the chance to come down here and decide on these settings for retakes and grading, whether you want them to do a full retake of all the problems or just a quick retake of the ones they got incorrect. If you do a full retake, you'll also notice these grading policies pop up, where if they do a full one, you can decide if you want to take their best score, final score, or an average score of their multiple attempts that they took. So depending on what you have set here, other things will pop up, or they'll be kind of grayed out if it is not pertinent to what you have set here. And towards the bottom, the last thing you'll see is these grade settings. So you can decide if you want to give the students partial credit or not. That would be just for multi-part problems. If you don't have multi-part problems or partial credit is not available for your course, you might not see this setting. Just depends on the course you have. If it is available, you'll see this setting pop up where you can check or uncheck it. You also have some new options for score release and report release. For the score release, you can either decide if you want the score to be released right away when they submit the assignment. You can wait until the due date passes, or you can do a customized date, either like in the future or something. If a student is not submitting it until later, you could do a custom date past the due date. For the report release, you can decide if you want to even enable that or not. So if you don't want them to see the report, which is a full breakdown of every question and number set that they were asked, as well as like the answer to those questions if they got it incorrect. If you don't ever want them to see that, you can totally shut it off, maybe for like a final exam or a test. But if you do want them to be able to see what they got correct or incorrect, you could turn that on. And you can decide if you want to give them that report right away after submitting, wait until the due date, or wait till a custom date. So especially if you have like a late submission window or you're a student with an exception, you might want to wait to give all students access to that until a date in the future, just so they're not kind of sharing that full report and breakdown with somebody who has not taken that test or quiz just yet. And then on that report, you can also decide if you want them to view it unlimited times or one time only. So if you only want them to get in there once just to see what they got correct or incorrect, but not go back in there multiple times, you can just do the one time only, or you can decide to just give it to them unlimited times. You can also set letter grades in here. So if you want to adjust your letter grades and decide kind of where those will be, you can turn that on or off. And then this save settings at the bottom is to save anything for future assignments created. So this will not adjust anything that's already made in your class, but any future homeworks would have these same settings set. Whatever I just did on here, it will save those settings just to make it a little bit easier if you're creating many homework assignments in your course. You might want to do these save settings. But like I said, it will not go to anything that is already created in that homework category, because we don't want to adjust anything that you've already done for different assignments in that same category. And then once you're finished, you'll hit save, and that will save into your course. It will take you back to your assignments page, and you can go in and adjust any of the other assignments in your course.